And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the Connected for Real podcast. I'm Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman. And today, our topic is birth and God. And today, with me is the one and only amazing midwife, Sarah Seymour.
Hi, everyone.
Introduce yourself first, and then we'll give them a little background.
Okay, hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Seymour. I live in Israel, and I've been a midwife for what seems like forever, since I was in my 20s. And recently, well, not so recent now, about 4 years ago, I left the hospital system, and now I exclusively do home births in and around Jerusalem and the surrounding settlements.
Yes. So Sarah Seymour was my midwife. You guys may remember this. I had a home birth with my number 7. And that was really fun. It was really special.
Yes, it was a wonderful experience. You handled it like a pro. You were totally like in your home birth. And it was just wonderful to see your kids around you. And your daughter was there. It was very special.
Yeah. So my kids were in school, but my oldest daughter stayed because she didn't have school anymore. And it was so beautiful. And, I have to tell you, I got a friend of mine who does hypnobirthing. She gave me a free training and gave me all these like meditations I had to do. And I actually did the homework and it worked so well. I was in such a different world when I was giving birth. I had no idea who was there. And then when he told me the baby is out and it's all over, I turn around and I see 6 people. 6. There were 6 people in the room. I did not have a clue they were all there. It was amazing. It was my mother and my mother-in-law and my daughter and you and the doula and my husband. Like, what?
Yeah, it was extremely calm, even with everybody there. They were very respectful. And
they were great. They were great. Apparently, there were jokes going around. Like my husband was like, "You guys want popcorn?" Because they were just all sitting, being really nice and quiet, watching. But it was such a special experience, and that's why I brought you here, because I want everyone to hear about it. I want people to just become more aware of how to bring God into their birth, and in general, just how to have a better experience. Because a lot of what we see and what we consume from the outside world seems to be a little negative.
Right, about home birth. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of bad press, which is not really justified in the vast majority of cases.
I think about birth in general, just like how birth is shown on, when we were young on TV or whatever, like it's never really a good experience. It's always this like drama and crazy and noise and out of control and and it's like, wait, people, like it's totally not reality.
Right. I mean, birth has been going on since time immemorial, and it was just a normal part of life. And of course, there was the challenge, and it was, something that women had to get ready for. But it was not dramatic in most cases. And the women would just labor, and she had her supporters and her midwife, and she would just give birth. And the vast majority of cases, it went very well. And now it's like become this huge, like medicalized part of a machine almost, that you have to be plugged into this system in order to give birth. And that might be needed for some women who are high risk or have different needs or complications. But for the majority of women who just need to let their body give birth, it's totally unnecessary, and it really can, disrupt the whole rhythm of the woman giving birth. Yeah, and the pregnancy too.
Yeah. So let's talk about how do we bring God into birth, and what is the connection there? Let's start talking about it.
Yeah. Well, birth is a hugely spiritual moment. From the moment that a woman, man and wife conceive their baby, They say it takes three partners to bring a new person into the world: a man, a woman, and God. So it's a very godly moment. Even the conception of a baby is considered in Judaism to be a very holy moment, and a lot of people have special intentions that it should be for a holy, good, a good and holy child should come from the connection between the man and wife. So it even starts from there. And throughout the whole pregnancy, women are super connected to God, many through prayer, and realizing that it's a huge miracle growing a baby. It's not something that they take for granted. We see that things can go wrong. So women who are connected to spirituality and to God are regularly praying throughout their pregnancy that everything should go smoothly. And if things don't go smoothly, if there's bumps in the road, who are they turning to? They're turning to prayer. Of course, they might seek medical attention as well. But God is with the woman throughout her whole pregnancy. It's a very spiritual time. And a lot of women grow spiritually throughout their pregnancy. They become like a whole nother side of them comes out. I don't know if you felt that.
I totally feel it. Where I feel it the most, every time I give birth, since I opened up this business, right? Last time I had a baby, now I'm pregnant and I'm expecting a baby. The pregnancy time feels like an expansion of my capacity to receive. And I get downloads. I wake up in the middle of the night. I start journaling. Like, there is some crazy things that are going on in my, in my mind and my connection and my intuition, because there's something really almost like fresh and raw in the pregnancy, in this season of life.
Yeah. Growing a new human being is a hugely spiritual endeavor. And if you can tap into that, then you can come out of it like a newborn person. Like they say, the maiden dies at the time of birth and a mother is born. It's like a very like woo-woo kind of time. And of course, as the woman becomes nearer to birth, she's probably going to be doing more things to prepare herself spiritually for the birth. So there's certain prayers she might be doing, or certain customs that the woman might take on to connect to God during this time. Jewish women have a tradition to dip in the mikvah in the 9th month, which is like a healing water that women traditionally dip in every month. So this is a time for all that juicy, spiritual time to really connect to God. And the time of the birth is coming up. And a lot of times I speak to my mothers about this, because we're used to, when we've grown up and in the Western society that we're in, we all think we kind of control what we do. We kind of like, if we do this and that will happen. And, women come with their birth plan and it's like, I want this, this, and this. And especially a first-time mom, like they can get kind of like lost in that, trying to control what's happening in their birth. And there's a whole nother side to birth, which is that we really don't have that much control. We don't really have control when it happens, how it's going to happen, how quick it's going to be, how difficult it's going to be. So much is out of our control, and tapping into that and kind of letting go of that control and trying to just let God run the show is so freeing. So freeing for these mums. It can be a huge like breath of fresh air. Just like, okay, I can't plan for this. I can only prepare.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so true when people ask me like, so what's your plan for this birth? I'm like, I have no idea. Basically, I'm just going with the flow with this one, because there's a certain stage where you're just like, I get it. I can't really control it. So I'm just going to, lean into what I can control. So I think, what you said, prepare, is really helpful, right? So prepare by maybe meditating and resting and, thinking positive thoughts and creating, images of what you want to happen. has been my go-to because I don't actually have much of a plan. You know this.
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
I have a plan-ish.
Yeah, but you don't have to plan every detail. You just have to have a rough idea of what you're going to do. That plan may or
And
may
you know
not
what?
happen.
I want to be completely honest. In the beginning of this pregnancy, I was really torn because here I am. I had hospital births. I had, home births. I had, this is my number 8 already. So I've had a lot of different experiences and I wasn't sure what I was being called to do this time around. I almost felt like, I should just go to the hospital and not make it a big deal, you know? And I have my daily walk where I go all the way to the edge and I talk to God. And the conversation was like, am I allowed to ask for a home birth? Like, is it too like spoiled of me? Is that too much to ask for? Like, should I just like be a big girl and just like do the thing that everybody else is doing and just get it over with? And I was listening to myself going, why are you limiting yourself? Why are you not letting yourself want what you want? And the answer kept coming up like, I just feel bad that I'm paying more, I'm paying out of pocket to have something that I could get for free in a hospital. Like, that's the thought that was going through my head. Is like, why do I need to be so like, oh, so spoiled, so whatever? Like, if I had a good reason, here's my reasoning. If, let's say, I was traumatized in the hospital or some really terrible thing happened, so I would have a good reason to say like, this is really, this is why I need it. And then I would need it. And then it would make sense to pay for it. But like, thank God, I am very much go with the flow. I can go to the hospital and have a decent birth and be like fine with the experience and not have to like, make a big deal out of it and sort of process the whole thing, which is what I did with my 6th one, which is between 2 home births. Because my husband was like really not into it at the time. And I feel like, so why do I need to want something that almost feels like it's an extra, like this isn't a need, it's a want. And this was such a big learning experience for me as a human to say, I'm allowed to want, you know, like God wants me to want more. Like, of course, I'm going to have whatever I need. Of course, God is going to be with me. But like, God is limitless. He's capable of making it work that I can have the ideal birth and that I can be home and that I can have, Sarah at my birth, and all these different things that like you said, you do have a rough plan. So yeah, I had a rough plan, but I didn't think it was I didn't think I was worthy or deserving or that it was okay to want it because there's so much noise around it, just inner noise too. Like, it costs money and here you get all the stuff for free and here you get extra this, that, the other, and like a lot of just like noise. So
Right.
this was a really interesting process I had to go through. And by the way, like once I asked a lot for clarity, I prayed a lot for clarity. And like, if this is meant to be, make it clear and help me know. And, it took me a while to make a decision. And then finally, when I committed and I was like, okay, it's off my shoulders now. Like, it's done.
Right.
God wants
Mhm.
this, we're in alignment. But
Right.
it feels really wobbly to be in that in between state.
Right. And connecting to God through that process and uncertainty probably makes you a much stronger person inside because you, like you say, you've come to a moment of clarity. It's not just you kind of deciding and saying, okay, like it'll be good. It's really connecting deeply to what you feel like your soul wants. And I've seen that in other women as well. I've had a lot of women who come to me and they say, okay, we're going to meet you first. And then we're going to like go our way and like discuss with our rabbi, or we're going to like pray about it or connect, see if we connect on a spiritual level, because birth is very, very spiritual. Like I said before, and it's a meeting of souls, and the midwife soul is like privileged to be part of that story. And a lot of women find they really need to like pray on their birth before they make a decision, or even during the birth. I had a client and she said, anything that you think needs to happen during the birth, we're going to pray about it before it happens. If there's a complication or anything else, we're not going to just decide without praying first. I was like, okay, I hope nothing happens that we need to make a quick decision. But I guess we can pray quickly, So yeah, it's a huge part of life and decision making, and God really is part of that for sure.
Yeah, and when I had my fifth one was a home birth, so I didn't have a midwife, and it was just sort of like happened, and I ended up going to the hospital afterwards, whatever. But it was such a good experience. Once you experience it, you can't go back.
Right.
But then I had to make a decision of like which midwife do I want, and I started talking to all these midwives, and it's just so interesting how God guides that match, that experience, that it's really like a matchmaking thing, right? It's like you said, you have to connect on a spiritual level, because you're bringing someone into your experience that has to get it.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that all midwives are at least on the same page in terms of respecting the moment and the whole process. But there's a whole range within that, and everyone has their personality. And some women meet with me and decide to go with a different midwife, and that's fine, because every soul has their connections, and whoever's meant to be there, I believe, will be there. So I never get disappointed if a woman meets with me and then decides to take a different midwife. I'm like, okay, it's from a God. God decides who's supposed to be there, and that will be what will be. And sometimes even what happens is a woman has chosen a midwife, and then the midwife's not available at that day for whatever reason. Either she's sick or she's at another birth. And the midwife that she originally met with, or another midwife who she talked to on the phone, or whatever it is that she didn't originally connect with, ends up being the midwife at the birth. And it's like such a funny roundabout way. And everyone's always knows that can happen. But it's like the woman is like, okay, how do you say that in English? It appears that was who was supposed to be my midwife, and that was supposed to be the person who helped bring my baby to the world. And it's just funny how things work out. You have to go with the flow.
So I have to go plug my computer in because it's dying. But while we're talking about plugging in, how do we plug into God while we are at a birth? Go for it.
Okay. So one of the things that helps us to plug into God is understanding that fear disables a birth. Fear of the birth, fear of the unknown, fear of pain. And when we connect into faith and trust in his ways, then it disables the fear, because we trust in the process. We trust in his timing, in his way of bringing the baby. And it's like letting go and letting God. I mean, I'm sure people have heard that before, but it completely resonates when it comes to birth, because we can do all the things in the world, and sometimes we just have to say, okay, I can't anymore. It's just not, it's too much. It's too hard. And just let go and give your body over to God and let him help birth the baby. Because sometimes the timing is just so long, the birth can be so long, and the woman is just giving up. And I'm just like, you just have to pray. God will give you strength, and that we'll do all we can to help you through. And this baby will come when it's good and ready, when it's good and cooked. And as they say in Hebrew, b'sha'ah tovah, in the right time. And sometimes the time is just not yet. And we're not privy to these parts of information, So letting go of all the preconceived ideas and really letting God just run the show and tapping into his strength. So when the woman is, getting distressed, feeling out of strength, I just say to her, ask Hashem, ask God to give you more strength. His infinite strength you can draw down from the heavens. Just there, it's there for the taking. I know you feel that you haven't got it, but it's there. dig deep and go get that strength, because no one else is going to help you birth this baby apart from God. You know, you have to do it. The midwife can be there to help you, but she's not. She's the messenger. She's not actually the one doing the birthing. She's there to help you, support you, but the birthing comes from God. And so tapping into that is super duper important.
Yeah, you know, in one of my births, I was very much in control. It was the 6th one, the one after that oops baby. So not oops baby, oops home birth. They're not, them are oops babies. But you know, oops, I had a home birth. My husband's like, yeah, we can't have a mistake twice. So this one has to actually be in the hospital. Okay, fine. So after realizing there was no way I could get another home birth, I got a doula and I did everything I could to prepare myself. And I really did. I was very intentional. I was like, you know what, if I have to do it in the hospital, I'll do it the way I want to do it and blah, 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 all the stuff. And I'm just doing all the things that I think are going to help me. And nothing is helping. Nothing is moving the needle. Everything is stuck. And after a while, I just put my hands down on the bed. I was like sitting on the ball and the bed was like in front of me. And I was like, banged it down. And I was like, okay, God, I get it. I'm trying to control it. I have to give up. And my hands are like so tight and so firm. Like, I'm going to let go. Okay. You know, and I'm talking to God, like, I get it. I get it. And like, as soon as I opened my hands and I let myself relax my shoulders, and I was like, you're in charge now. I am not in control anymore. I'm not going to try to make it go faster. I'm not going to try to force it to be the way I want it to be. I'm just letting go. That moment is the moment, you know, like it's like when you can pinpoint when things started going well, that's the point, you know, because as soon as I did that, my body just like, okay, we're ready now. And things started moving so quickly after that. It was crazy what a decision, like, you know, what a consciousness change can really create when you're in the middle of a birth.
Totally. I have a very similar story of a client, and she came to me. I sometimes do home births nearby. I have a small like rental. So she came to me in labor, and she was laboring really well and really hard, and it wasn't her first baby. So we're expecting, you know, the baby's going to come in a few hours, whatever it is. She was stuck at 7 centimeters all day. And we tried everything. We did the spinning babies exercises. We tried therapeutic rest. We tried exercises and different positions and walking and standing and sitting and lying and showering in the pool and for hours. I mean, this went on and on and on and on. And, you know, with this baby just wasn't coming. And so it was nothing physical in the end that brought the baby. Her husband was connected to a yeshiva. And he called his rabbi and he said, pray for my wife. This baby is not coming. And, you know, we're all at our wits' end. We don't know what to do. And they all started praying. In the meanwhile, we decided that we're going to transport to hospital because we were like, okay, 10 hours of hard labor and no progress. Like maybe something's wrong. And we got ready to go. And literally, she has her shoes on, her coat on. It's winter. Like I packed up everything. She stands up. I mean, she'd been standing. Like it's not like she'd never stood. Like she stands up, waiting to go. And suddenly, I hear her pushing the baby out. I'm like, "Are you pushing?" After 10 hours of nothing, she birthed that baby in about 2 minutes. She had her coat on, her shoes on. I just put my hands and caught the baby, came flying out, and it was like, from complete despair, got everyone praying to this baby being born, was super duper quick, and it was just, you know, a miracle. I don't know what happened, nobody knows, but there you go. So yeah, prayer is right. We should have prayed hours before that.
But you know what, there's a time for everything, and the time, you know, for that awareness of like, I think we need to, you know, change gears. I need to, you know, we need to shift something. That also comes with its time, the spark.
Yeah.
But it also reminds us how quickly things can change. You know, I think of birth and I was like, in a blink of an eye, your whole day changes, right? Like your whole out, like my water broke in the middle of the bus, right? Like it was one of the stories I have is, you know, I'm on the bus and my water breaks and I start cracking up, whatever. It was a really funny joke, funny situation. And like I was on my way home. I don't want to get off the bus, you know, I just want to go home. And it's just sometimes you don't realize how God is running the show very much. Like in birth, it's a lot more visible, it's a lot more in your face, right? If let's say in regular life, sometimes it can hide behind nature or whatever. In birth, it's almost impossible to ignore the fact that God is in charge.
Yeah, and we just see the miracle of the baby, how it transitions from the womb to outside. I can't help but just marvel every time when you see a baby, when it's in the uterus, its blood vessels are connected in a way and they flow away from the lungs because the lungs aren't breathing. There's no air in the lungs. And as soon as it's born, it's just miraculous. It has receptors on its face that detect air. There's no air inside the uterus. So in the bag of water, as soon as it's born, it detects the air on its face. The vessels do this switch, like the vessels close and vessels open. The whole blood flowing through the heart flows the other direction towards the lungs, which causes the lungs to open and the baby to take a breath. Like the engineering is like incredible. And everybody does this when they're born. They switch, you know, their blood flow, and it's like the miraculousness of it never ceases to amaze me. And you watch these babies transitioning and doing this. And obviously you can't see inside them, but you see the process happening as they start to blink and they start to cough and then they take a breath. It's like it's such a holy time. You know, I can't fail to be amazed every single time a baby's born. And there's so much there that it's just incredible, really incredible.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, my daughter says that she saw the baby come out, and first the head just came out, and it was just like he was still inside. He was completely calm. His face was so chill. Like it was. She says he was outside, but because he was still half inside, he was pretend still inside. Like she said, it was the most amazing thing to watch. And then the baby came out all the way. You know, when you told me to push. You're like, I will never tell you to push, but now is the time to push. So I actually pushed, and she says, like, wow, you know, that moment where you realize you just experienced seeing a miracle, like with all of its little details.
Right. The soul is just coming down from the heavens, and as soon as a baby's out, it's just like they wake up. It's like yeah, incredible. I always also tell my moms, like, while they're pushing, you know, when their baby's about to be born, like the heavens are open, like the soul is descending, you know, like now's the time to pray for whatever you want, for your family, for your husband, for your children, for whoever, you know, Israel, whatever you need. Like the heavens are open. It's a very auspicious time to pray when the baby's being born. And I often pray too if I'm not too busy with with what's going on. I'll send up my few prayers as well, because it's it's a very special moment. Yeah, you just see these babies coming.
I think in my third birth, there was this woman I worked with, and she didn't have any kids, and she trained me. She trained me in this job, and I just felt so bad. Like here I am, gigantic, uncomfortable, sitting and being trained in this job, and she's praying for like 10 years to have a baby or whatever. And so I decided that when I give birth, I'm going to pray for her. And then my birth was like, I'm you know, almost there. Baby's not coming, and I'm thinking, why is it taking so long? What am I forgetting? And in the middle of the birth, like in the middle of that moment where I'm like, what am I forgetting? Oh, I'm forgetting her. And then I said her name, and I like, God, listen, she really needs it. You know, like, and I brought down like all of everything. I'm like, okay, this is emergency, people. We got to pray for her. And this, as soon as I said her name and really had that intention for her, suddenly everything opened up, baby came out. And I was like, yes, I needed to wait for that moment, you know? And it's amazing. Thank God she did have kids, and it was a real, you know, real miracle. well, it's not me, but I think it was really fun. It was really fun to realize, how much God orchestrates everything, even to the point of like, I'm delaying because I need you to remember something, or like, I want you to wake up for a moment, get conscious just a second, before you get to the next level. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And I love working with families who recognize that, because it really makes the whole process much easier. Like I said, because you're not like trying to control and trying to figure out why things happen. It's like you just let go, just like, okay, God is just running the show here. And it does make, I mean, I work with all sorts of couples, from the even non-Jewish to the very irreligious to the very, very, very Orthodox, fanatical even types, who are like on the other extreme. And I love working with people when we talk about things that might go wrong at the birth. Obviously, in the first meeting, I bring these things up, and they're just like, okay, everything's in God's hands. Like, we can't control everything. Obviously, we're not going to do anything stupid, but within the realm of normal behavior, if something goes wrong and it's something that, you couldn't help, then it's obviously in God's hands. It makes me feel very good because, instead of blaming the midwife if something goes wrong, they know that it's not, that I'm just the hands. I'm God's hands, basically. I'm God's handmaiden. I'm not the one who's in charge. I mean, obviously I have to do my best, but that's all part of the plan as well.
Right. We all do our best.
Yeah.
And you guys are listening to a little bit of my story, and you're like, so how did your husband agree to this if he was so against it? So let me tell you, my husband used to be in Hatzalah, which is, like a EMT. And he was trained at, hospital, doctors know best and all this stuff. And, get her to the hospital as quick as possible. And so he was always very much, very scientific about it and very logical about the risks and all this stuff. And when COVID hit, that was a miracle for me. That was like, thank you, God. That was a gift from God. I know so many people who are looking back now and saying what gifts COVID gave them. This was my gift. I was pregnant during COVID, and I told my husband, I took him we went for a walk, and I said, listen, I don't think it makes any sense to take a healthy mother and a healthy baby into a sick hospital. Can we have a home birth? And my husband actually considered it. And I did not, but you came to us and you told us all of the dangers and all of the risks and all of the things. And then you made a sign on the dotted line. And I was afraid to sign first. I was like, I can't put my heart down and sign it and then have him turn around and be like, no, but I'm not doing it. So I waited. I'm sitting there silently waiting for him to sign it. And as soon as he signs it, I was like, oh my gosh, this in itself is a miracle, right? Because, sometimes you have very strong opinions about something just because of what you know. And with time and with life and with different situations changing, suddenly things have to be rethought and reconsidered. And then once he met with you, we both met with you, and you're so scientific about it. You actually have everything under control, he felt very comfortable that you're not just sort of like, oh, woo woo, we'll do our best. It's fine, blah, blah, blah. No, I was like that. I'm very, oh, it's going to be fine. God is in, we're in good hands. And you were like, yes, we're in good hands. And here's all the things I do. And here's all the things that I, take into consideration. Here's all the stuff I bring with me and whatever. So it was a very nice balance. As soon as we were able to open up the conversation and actually hear and meet you and, the other side of the risks involved, it became clear that this made total sense. And so thank God, I think that just in my journey of going from extreme, only the doctors know, and, epidural, Pitocin, all of the things, whatever, to completely being on the opposite side now and having experienced all the things in between. It's really an amazing experience, birth, just in all of its different facets.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's an important point, actually, is the blending of God and science in life in general. We don't want to completely rely on science, because we know that science comes from God, and we don't want to, but we do want to completely rely on God, but we want to use the science that he's given us as a tool to use it to our benefit. So it's finding the right balance between the two. So completely relying on either one without using the other is not really the way the world is supposed to be. They say
Right.
Torah of Avodah, like, Torah is God, is the way of life of Torah, of Judaism, and work, like, don't just, split your life and do one half of it. So this is really where I see my role actually is blending the two together, is bringing the godliness and the spirituality, praying on the way. I always pray on the way to a birth that I should have pure heart, good intentions, clean hands, that my hands should be there to do the work of God, that I should have wisdom, they should give me wisdom, and that I should be the messenger, the right messenger for this woman, and I should do my best, and I shouldn't make a mistake. On the other hand, I also bring all my equipment with me, like you say, like I have my things to resuscitate the baby. I'm not just going to stand over the baby and pray. Like, I'm going to pray and resuscitate the baby, Thank God that happens extremely rarely, but I need to know how to do it if it happens. So we're getting the right balance between the two. And I think that's why I do get a lot of, religious clients who are a little afraid of home birth, because they want to have that reassurance. They also want the religious part, and they also want she knows her stuff. She's not just coming with God will fix everything without any effort on my part. So yeah,
I think the integration is really powerful. It's really powerful, and it's what we talk about on this podcast all the time, is integrating all the different parts of your life, right? So you can't just focus on, oh, my marriage is top priority, so I'm not going to do my business. I'm just going to sit here and just focus on this one thing. But like, honestly, if there's something pulling you to go and do something and, become and show and share and shine, you're going to be miserable in your marriage because you're not letting yourself do the thing, right? And on the other hand, you can't just be like, go, 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 business, business. I need to make $1 million and then leave everything behind, because obviously that's not what life is about, right? So finding those intersections and really integrating them and creating support and creating the way that they all work together so that you can have the best life, and so you can really have, real success, not just like, partial success here or partial success there, but success in every single aspect of your life. I love that you bring that in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I used to work in the hospital for many, many years, and I felt that there was very little space there for God in the birth room. If the woman brought it in, she had to do it on her own, like it was her thing, and the midwife would respect her. But because she wasn't in her own environment, she was spent most of her energies coping with the strange environment, with the strangers coming in and out, with the procedures happening to her, with the machinery in the room. So it's much harder for the woman to have the emotional space and capacity to bring God into that situation. It takes a very committed woman to really say, okay, I'm going to put all that out of my head and just focus on the moment, on godliness, on spirituality, on bringing my baby to the world in holiness. But when a woman gives birth at home, all those distractions just aren't there. She doesn't have to worry about strangers. She doesn't have to worry about fancy equipment. All my equipment's on the side and covered and very discreet. She doesn't have to worry about people checking in on her and coming in and out the room and talking to her about all sorts of strange things that maybe aren't relevant to her, being pressurized because of time. So she can just let go of everything and really focus on the process of giving birth. And for a lot of women, a huge part of that is the spiritual aspect of it as well, and praying and really connecting. And it gives them just so much more space to be able to do that. It's beautiful. And then you just feel it in the air, like this calmness, this tranquility. The woman is just like in herself. Her husband will be nearby. A midwife is sitting quietly, just waiting patiently, and it's just like such a holy moment. It's the Hashem is right there with us. It's just like beautiful. You can really feel it.
Yeah, God's presence is really in a birth. So people are listening to us and they're thinking, yeah, very nice. You get to do a home birth because you can, and all these great things, but for whatever reason, this person's having a VBAC and can't have home births, or this person didn't pass the test, the sugar test or whatever. Like, there's so many reasons why a person can't have a home birth. How can they bring God into the birth that was designed for them, right? God is orchestrating everybody's birth. And if you, for some reason, can't have a home birth, is also orchestrated, right? Don't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
God is that too.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
how do we, find that ability to bring God into all the parts, even when they don't line up with exactly what we want?
Right. So I think it's a matter of actually spending the time to connect to God and to your baby. So I definitely recommend that women every day should spend 5 to 10 minutes, which is not a lot of time. Even they can do it before they go to bed, just sitting with their hands on their tummy and like doing some breathing exercises and talking to their baby and connecting to the baby and telling the baby that, the baby's doing great, and telling themselves that they're doing great and they're looking after themselves, and connecting to God, to asking to God for his kindness in the birth that they're going to have, for good doctors and good midwives, and the process should go smoothly. And also, like I said, letting go of the process as much as you can, saying, okay, I'm going to do my best, I'm going to eat well. Nutrition is a huge part of having a good birth, no matter what the birth is going to look like. Exercise, I'm not talking about jumping around like a crazy person, just walking or yoga or swimming for sure is a great part of the effort that you can put in to have a good birth. And meditation, connecting to yourself, to your body, to your baby. And then you will learn through this process, to connect to yourself and to a higher power, and whatever happens, you'll be able to just go with the flow and accept it. It's also similar to mindfulness, like being in the moment, like understanding this is where I need to be right now. Okay, I've done my best. I've done my exercise. I've been eating well. I've been taking my blood tests, whatever I need to do, and making sure everything's fine. But right now, this is where I'm at. And connecting to the godliness of the moment and saying, okay, this is what I need to go through, and for whatever reason it is. It also, I think, really, really helps to have with you a doula who can help you go through the process so that you don't feel lost in it. Because some women, if they go through a very difficult birth and they don't know what's happening, and they feel like they're just being tossed on a wild sea, and they're being taken this way and that way, and people are saying this and they're saying that, and they don't know what's going on as things are happening to them, it can be very, very disorientating, can leave the woman very, very distressed. So having someone who can ground you and can walk you through the process and really help explain things to you, and asking from the staff to kind of explain things and take their time and really connect with the woman so she understands what's going on, can be a huge way also to just like have like an easier birth and have the space to really connect to what's going on at the moment. And through that, you can obviously like connect more easily to the spiritual as well.
Yeah, I love that you said, in order to be in the moment during the birth, you have to learn to be in the moment right now. And a lot of times what happens is like, 7th month, 8th month, you're sitting there and you're like, sort of, your mind is wondering about like all the fears and all the things that could, and all the things, and what am I going to do, and how is it going to be? And if you're stuck in that, drama in your head, you're not in the moment right now. And so when you get there, you're also not going to be able to be in the moment, because it's just a muscle that we need to, sort of flex and strengthen so that we can be in the moment. Like I said, one of the best gifts that I gave myself was doing the homework for the hypnobirthing, like really forcing myself to sit down and do the meditations and, be present and rest and allow myself to learn what to do. Because when it came time to do it, I knew exactly what to do. I didn't need anything else. I just like slipped right into it. And it's because I practiced. Right. So even if you can't have, the ideal birth for you, or the thing that you wish would happen. And by the way, there is no ideal for everyone. That's why I said ideal for you. Birth is so unique and so personal, and you have your own things that make you feel secure and make you feel grounded. So really respecting that, and also knowing what you're going to need and being able to lean into it right now, regardless of where you are in the process.
Right. And that's why I think the daily connecting to yourself is so important. Like you say, it's a muscle. It gives you the strength to really know yourself. And you can also tap into your intuition as well. A lot of mums, oh, sorry, I don't know why they're supposed to be on silent, but it's not. A lot of mums phone me up and say, I don't know what to do, like in this situation or that. And I'm like, you need to, there's no black and white answer sometimes. I think take time and sit with yourself and use your intuition, tap into your intuition, because you have the answer there. You haven't flexed that muscle yet. Like you say, ask for the download. It's not going to come if you don't give it the space. You've got to give it the space. You've got to allow it a landing spot. So yeah, the intuition is huge, really huge, and being mindful of the moment and where you're at and what you need. If you haven't practiced that at all, then it's trying to figure out that in labor is going to be pretty challenging if you haven't practiced beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah, I think back to that time when my husband said I can't have a home birth, I need to go to the hospital with number 6, and I hired a doula, and I actually did a bunch of, I think it was like 2 months or 3 months of weekly meetings, I guess, like sort of coaching to prepare for birth. And I think that was a really good gift that I gave myself. And one of the things that she said in the first session, she said, imagine this bowl is sitting on the counter and it sits there for a while and you just forgot about it. And then you want to go and like use it. So you take it to the sink, you start, filling it with water, and then you come to use the water and you're like, ew, it has this film, right? There's like this dusty film thing on the water. It's like, ugh, disgusting. The water is gross, and you spill out the water. And it's like, wait. Was the water disgusting, or was the bowl not ready to contain the water, right? Because the water was clear. The water was pure. And the same thing is with God's abundance. Abundance and, God's gifts are always good. And the problem is that we sometimes are, a little bit stagnant for a little bit too long, and it starts to get dusty, and we start to have all these things that sort of stick. And then God sends us the abundance, and as a container, I just can't see why this is good. I see it as a curse. I see it as like, ew, and I spill it out. I'm like, I don't want this. This is not what I asked for, right? So this was basically my situation. It's like, I didn't ask to be in the hospital. I didn't ask to be in the situation. And she was like, this is why you need to prepare your vessel, because as soon as you've cleaned up the vessel and prepared it to receive the abundance, then when the abundance comes, you're going to only see good. You're only going to be able to enjoy it. And she was right. And it was one of the best things that I did was every week went deeper and deeper into letting go and forgiving, and, sort of a lot of the inner work that I had to do that probably didn't have anything to do with the birth, but had everything to do with the birth. And then at the end of that, being able to really let go and enjoy the process. And really, at the end of it, I had a good experience. My phone rang too. Look at that. I ended up having a really good experience, and overall, I think that preparing was one of the biggest gifts I could do for myself. So I think that is, a really good way to wrap it up, is make sure that you are in whatever stage you're in, be present and allow yourself to prepare so that you can lean into that.
Yeah. And knowing that it's not in your hands, and for women who have a difficult experience, to know that it's not their fault. They did the best they could. And for whatever reason, God decreed that this was the birth that they were going to have. And we see how years down the line, a woman's first birth, second birth can make a huge impact on the way she changes her life around or leads her life or what she does. And it can be a gift. So seeking out the gift in a difficult situation is what can really save a person's sanity sometimes, or knowing that there's a gift and they don't know what it is yet. And realizing that birth is not in your hands. It's just not in your hands. And letting go of it and just doing the best you can with what the tools that you have at the time.
Yes, I love it. And by the way, I think I think next week we
We'll go around here.
wow, somebody's looking for us. So next week we have a guest, Ayala Chwell, who does the processing post-birth and helps women really find those gifts within the difficulties and the experiences that they went through. So that's going to be really fun to talk about. Sarah, tell everybody where they can find you and, you know, how they can work with you.
Okay, so I'm on Facebook, Sarah the Midwife. No, Sarah Seymour Private Midwife. That's my Facebook page. I have a website, sarahthemidwife.com. Just throw in there that I also do diaphragm fittings for women who want to ditch the hormones and don't like the idea of IUD. So you can call me or WhatsApp me on 053-628-6219, and we can set up a meeting where you can ask me your questions. I presume you'll link my website somewhere in the show notes, as they say.
Yes, I will.
Very happy to talk to anyone who's interested in a home birth or a diaphragm fitting or anything else that comes up.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with me. This is so much fun. And if you're watching this live, then yes, this is live and I am expecting. But if you're listening to the replay, you're going to have to, you know, stay tuned because when this drops in the podcast, I'm probably not going to be pregnant anymore. So it's going to be really fun to get updated. So if you're only tuning in now to the podcast, make sure to start following me on Instagram at Connected for Real, and you can see what ended up happening between now and then. This could be really fun. This is what happens. Yes, to be revealed. This is what happens when you plan ahead and you're like recording ahead of time. You're like, how are people going to know what's going to happen? I'm like, when I know, I'll let you know. Okay. So get on my email list. You can find me at connectedforreal.com/guide and get a free guide to unravel overwhelm, which is going to be a great gift for yourself. And if you follow me on Instagram at Connected for Real or on Facebook or on LinkedIn, I am Connected for Real in all those places. You can stay tuned to what ended up happening. Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah.
I look forward to it as well. You know, having a repeat client is always a treat, and especially one as sweet as you, and you're such a good birther. So looking forward to it.
I am excited. Yeah. I just got a tiny bit nervous, but I'm excited. I think I get nervous because you called me a good birther. I'm like, oh no, I just try. So please God, everything at the right time, orchestrated, perfectly aligned, and God will be with us. Okay. And to you listeners, I want to make sure that you know God is with you right here, right now. And I want you to be connected for real, and make sure to tune in next week for an amazing episode.